All right, so the first work where I think this HOG feature was proposed, it was back in 2005, almost like 17 years back, and they were used for human detection. And of course, these days they can use for like many other problems, for example, classification, object recognition, or anything like where you have like some kind of visual processing. But initially they were proposed for human detection. And so to be able to understand this, we'll have to do some revision of like histogram. And again, we have covered this, but let me quickly go over this, what histograms are. Given an image patch, okay, so this in this case it's image patch, but it could be like any, it could be like collection of numbers, right? And so given this kind of image patch, a histogram is something which is counting the frequency of these numbers. Okay. For example, in your image, let's say it's a grayscale image, the values can be between 0 and 255. Okay, so each pixel will have value ranging from 0 to 255. So if you have to draw a histogram, what that will represent is, in the x-axis, you will have bins, and these bins will be the possible values. For example, grayscale, these will be 0 to 255. Okay, in the x-axis, you will have on the left, starting from 0, that will be your first bin, 1 will be second bin, and so on and so forth. You will have total of 256 bins. The y-axis over here, it's just counting how many times that particular intensity or that value of pixel actually occurred in your input image. All right, so let's look at like this very simple example. Here you can see that you have values ranging from 0 to 5, right? And that's why in the x-axis you have values like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have 6 as well. But you can see that 6 is kind of 0 because no pixel had value of 6. Now, if you count like how many pixels has a value of 0, you can simply count that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going over like over this point, right? So it's saying that 5 pixels had intensity of 0. And similarly, you can count 1, I think that's 6. So it's going over here. And similarly, for each bin, you can count the number of times that value is actually occurring in the input image. And that's a very simple histogram. Okay, so that's a basic formulation. And of course, there are like a lot of variations. One variation could be, what if you are not interested in having like too many bins? So in this case, it's showing you like if there are 5 possible values or 6 possible values, then you have 6 different bins. Okay, so 1 bin for each value. You can actually try to club these bins between values. So you can say that, okay, I will only have 1 bin for 0 and 1. Then whenever you see like a value which is either 0 or 1, you will just count into that particular bin. So if you combine these two, then that bin will have almost 11 different numbers. Okay, and in total, then let's say you have only 3 different bins. 1 bin for 0 and 1, second bin for 2 and 3, third bin for 4 and 5. And of course, like this is one extreme, right, where you have 1 bin for each number. The other extreme is, and of course that's not practical, but let's discuss that. The other extreme is when you only have 1 bin, which means that you just have 1 bin and all the values actually goes to that bin. And that will just tell you how many pixels you have. So that's the other extreme. Okay, ideally we want to be like somewhere in the middle where we don't have like a lot of bins and we don't have like too few bins, somewhere in between. And one good practice is to have like equal number of values like for each bin. So they will be kind of equidistant. For example, the earlier example we discussed, we talked about like having 2 values each for each bin. Okay, so that's like a simple concept of histogram, and we will use this concept when we are extracting HOG features. So that's why it's really important to understand this. Okay, so that was a normal bin-based histogram, and this is another example which is kind of showing you histogram, and this is showing you histogram of a real grayscale image. And here you can see that the x-axis is actually showing you the intensity of pixels starting from 0 all the way up to 255, which is kind of pure white, and 0 is pure black. And again, the y-axis is just counting number of pixels you have of that particular tone or that particular color. So this is just giving you can say like intensity profile as well. And you can see that it's kind of telling you, okay, you have a lot of pixels which are of this shade, and again, too many pixels of this shade over here, right? And again, you have very few pixels which are actually very, very bright, completely bright. And again, this is a histogram. And this is like one extreme where you have one bin for each pixel, possible pixel value.